Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Women's Wisdom. Women's Wisdom is brought to you by your host, me, Nicole Cartney, and through this series, you will hear from some incredible women who are doing amazing things in the world. But not only that, they are living their ultimate life. Today, I'm going to be speaking with an amazing friend of mine who is doing some incredible work. We're going to go take you behind the scenes, share her life, her story, and uncover some really golden nuggets as well. So get ready because we have some juiciness to reveal. So without further ado, let me introduce you to my beautiful friend, Katie. Katie is a business coach, a healer for adventurous soulpreneurs. Her mission is to help you transform fear into flow state, disrupt your version of normal, and bring you into the knowing that you can be all things. Welcome, Katie. So great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. Yay!
Yay! How are you?
I'm good. It's been wild. But I'm so grateful for it. And I'm sure you talk a lot about internal work and healing on this podcast. So I'm just gonna go for it. But I'm so glad that the work I have been doing prior to all of this happening in the world has allowed me to process everything so much with a little more grounding, or at least more self-care in the process, and not letting myself go into who knows, the void. So I'm really grateful for the work that I've been doing on myself over the last few years to be in this moment. And I'm so grateful to offer these tools to other people, as I'm sure you are, who are maybe waking up for the first time.
Okay, amazing. So obviously we know each other on a personal level. We've gone really deep in retreats and huge awakenings. So yeah, I'm really, really fortunate to have you as a really good friend, but also just witnessing you in your own transformation, and you've also seen mine as well. So let's talk about who is Katie before the Katie we have right now. Like, what was Katie doing before?
Before, I was working seasonal jobs. So I'm an extreme sports athlete, and I was working seasonal jobs in order to have as much freedom as I thought I was having. At the time, it seemed like the only way that I could do that and still have as much fun and be able to travel for the competitions for extreme skiing that I was doing. But I also mountain bike and kiteboard and kind of everything under the sun. But the thing I'm sponsored in is skiing, but I love all expressions of outdoor sports. And I was working seasonal jobs to make that work. So working at ski resorts or working in restaurants and moving every 6 months. And at the time, it felt like the only way to kind of have that freedom. So that's what I was doing beforehand. And I was not aware of the gifts that I had. And I think I probably even resented them because I didn't recognize them as gifts. So I didn't recognize the skills that I had as a way to create actual freedom or a next level of experiencing full expression within myself, but also like financial and time, and just, yeah, it really more comes down to like the expression, feeling like I actually got to be me without fitting into a box. But at first it was having a lot of fun, traveling, and kind of just making ends meet in the name of not being tied down.
I would love for you to share more about are you still doing that? Is it still something in your vision around extreme sports? Because I know you're so committed. Like, when you put your mind to something, you just get it done. And so that's what I really acknowledge you for. And so share more about your extreme sports, and yeah, tell me about that journey.
Yeah, so it's definitely still part of it. And I think at first, before ending up, I think what got me on this whole journey was asking myself the question of, how do I keep this part of my life? Because I thought it was something I would have to sacrifice in order to have any level of quote unquote success. And that frustrated me, because these are the things I love the absolute most. It's how I've connected to flow state, and that's why the fear to flow state thing is part of my mission. But it's also how I've found like self-confidence, and how I found just an ability to overcome a lot of things in my life has been through these extreme sports, but also in nature. And I was frustrated in thinking that in order to be successful or to have financial stability, I would have to give those things up. And I was kind of fed up with that overall mentality or idea being kind of fed to me. And they're like, oh yeah, well, settle down, or maybe you'll sell some stuff and you'll still get to go on some trips here and there. And that, it pissed me off. And so what ended up opening everything up was getting clear on like, what do I want my life to actually look like and include, and how do I just decide that that's possible and not need to know exactly how yet. And once I made the decision, which was really scary at first because there's no real proof out there that that was possible, but I come to this like kind of almost like throw my hands in the air moment of like, this is what I want. Some way it has to be possible, and I need to acknowledge what I actually want. And after that, everything started unfolding, and a podcast came into view, and I'd never thought of it before. It didn't make sense why I didn't, because I listened to thousands of hours of podcasts. And finally, ding, podcast idea, and it was to interview the people who are connected, all called outside, but being able to talk about like, what are the different ways that you create your life around the outdoors? And it's kind of now melded into, well, you're creating your dream life. Like, how do you manifest that? How have you created something that doesn't play by the rules? And so that was one expansion of that. And then as I kept going, I realized, oh, wow, I've been a coach because I've been a ski coach for so long, and I've started doing this. I'm like, I've been a coach this whole time. Why was I fighting it? So initially I was fighting it because I didn't know this industry existed. I didn't know how you really could step in, especially as a woman, and have so much freedom over declaring how you want your life to look like. But I still didn't see really any women in the outdoor sports realm doing it. And that was super scary. And I definitely ended up at first catering my voice to the people who I thought might want to do what I'm doing, but not really speaking to the women who resonate with what I do. And the whole time I've been thinking, wow, it would be amazing to host retreats and blend the healing with this, that I didn't see the connect for so long, but I wanted it. And as I've done more healing and as I've done more business coaching, I know there are a lot of female entrepreneurs and just women in general who want to feel flow state. How do you in your body overcome fear and overcome resistance? And we'll do it a lot in our heads, especially when we're tackling like, okay, I have this. If there are any women who are coaches or healers or entrepreneurs listening to this, so much of that is a head game. And when you take it into extreme sports, you feel it in your body as well. And when you access this point of flow state where you aren't thinking about it anymore, that's also where the magic happens in your business. And that's also where the magic happens in healing. And we get back into our bodies. And it ties in with this women's wisdom thing, because I didn't recognize how much of that would be woken up when I started doing healing work on feeling safe in my own skin, in my body as a woman. And I was really blown away at how all of it connected so much more powerfully than I ever could have comprehended. And and so I guess that's the quick and dirty version of a really big, of a lot of connections.
Amazing. So good. And what was it like being in that world? Because I know you touched on being a woman in that world of extreme sports, right? Because not a lot of women you would be surrounded with, right? So what was it like for you as a woman? And I guess what kind of advice can you give to women who maybe are hiding behind not doing that and following their dreams of extreme sports because maybe they're afraid of the environment?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think a lot of women find the community later in life as far as age than guys do. And that can be incredibly intimidating when you don't see a crew of women when you're young. So why would you jump into it and go all in when you don't see the example? And so to see now how there are like little girls clubs and stuff for free ride, that was never there. There wasn't a juniors free ride when I was 18. So I grew up with my family always playing outside. It never felt like a place I didn't belong. And I'm really grateful for that, because I know that isn't the case for a lot of women coming up. It was a family excursion, and it wasn't ever a guy versus a girl thing. And I'm so grateful for that. And especially grateful, my dad never made it a thing that I was a girl outside. Like I know this maybe without him even telling me, but he intentionally brought me up in a world of playing outside without ever making it about me being a girl. But that didn't mean that I didn't come to face those, I guess, stereotypes or perceptions in it later on, because I felt that it kind of became a whiplash, like a backlash of, you can't be, in order to be a part of the actual crew in extreme sports, it felt like you could not also honor your feminism, like to be feminine, to be sensual, to experience pleasure, to wear clothes that showed off your body. And I think a lot of women experience that regardless. I've heard this echoed in the corporate world as well, even though I haven't experienced the corporate world. It's like, you kind of want to, like, subconsciously, to be safe, you become one of the guys. And if girls are catty, no, I'm just gonna go hang out with the guys. They don't do that. And we turn off our feeling safe with those emotions and with those feelings and with that ownership of the magic that we have, in order to blend in order to accommodate, in order to fit in. And it's something that you just don't realize is even happening. And it really becomes very part of your identity at first. Like, no, I'm not a ski bunny. No, I'm not that. Like, I'm not one of those girls. I don't need to do that. I don't need to dress like that. Like, it's so much a part of your identity to, like, protect yourself. And part of the reason that is because I honestly want to say it's more a fear of what other women will think than what guys will think. It's definitely both, for sure, both. But that was something that was really eye-opening for me, is like, this is perpetuated more subconsciously by women probably than men. And how the fear of being perceived as that by the other women in the group. And like, no, you're not really part of this if you dress or act that way. You're not really part of this if you own your sensuality. You're not really part of the crew. And then there are other phrases like proho or slut strands, are like the pieces of hair, people are listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
These pieces of hair, when you put on your helmet or your goggles, and keep them out while everything else is tucked back. You're still a girl. And some girls started to flip it around and own that and call it like slut strand society, and kind of reclaimed that phrase. But at first, I remember even wearing mascara one day and having one of my guy friends being like, "You look really good today," and I was like, "Thanks." We were on the gondola skiing. And it flipped so quick, slapped back, and just like, who are you trying to pro-ho up with? Who are you trying to sleep with? Like, who are you trying to get? Like, why are you wearing mascara on the mountain? And I'm like, I didn't know what to say. I was so caught off guard. And I distinctly remember putting it on that morning, being like, I think I'm going to wear this today. Like, I feel good. Like, and I never had. And that's why it stood out. So there's this fear of allowing yourself to be feminine especially when you're already in it. For the people are like, who are you trying to press? Who are you trying to be? Who are you trying to, and I'm like, trying to be who I always was, but shut down and shut off. And so that can be there. And I've noticed there's an intimidation of women who maybe haven't been part of the club, quote unquote, but they want to get outside and they want to experience this, but maybe they have allowed themselves to be more feminine and more girly. And then they want to come into the extreme sports world, and it's maybe the perception fear of the other women more so than the men of, am I allowed to fit in here? And it's so funny to have grown up in it and then only really recognized it in the last few years upon self-reflection and healing and all of that, to be like, oh my God, this is so like how we gaslight and judge ourselves around it. But when you find the women who are like, oh my God, yes, wear whatever the hell you want to wear, like, sexy it up, let's do this, and still drop cliffs, and still go do crazy stuff, and still go like play in the mud. And that exists, but when you don't know it exists, it can be like, it can just feel like you're putting yourself out on a limb and hoping people will accept you. But that community does exist. So for anyone listening to this who's like, I want to be both. Can I be all of the things? Like, that's one of my mission statements also, is like, can I be all of the things? I'm like, yes, you can. And that was probably my biggest fear. And that's why I'm so passionate about it now, is like, you can be all of it. There is no this or that or stereotypes or boxes at all.
Amazing. That's so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I feel like a lot of people are going to get a hold of that and really take it and reflect on it, because I know I know a lot of female friends who may have been too afraid to do something because of the community. Awesome. So cool. And I know you're so big on community as well. How is how is what you've been through in that world now bringing a community of women that you help through healing as well and through business? Like, you've always been around community. What if someone was to create a community, where would they start? Like, how would they actually create that for themselves?
That's such a good question, because that was my biggest fear. My biggest fear is like,
Wow.
I'm gonna lose everybody I know by pursuing this. And it was such a massive fear. Like, I was probably paralyzed for a few months on the, like, I can't do what I'm starting to do because of the fear of either losing what I perceivably had or being called out or whatever. And what I found is that when you start doing it, there are people who feel, if you start speaking basically just what you're feeling and talking about what you're going through and just speaking on it in a way that it's almost like social media is just a journal for you to reflect, something you'd be proud to look back on in a year and be like, oh, that's what I was going through. Those are the thoughts I had, instead of writing it
Mm.
for what you think somebody else might want to hear. You just start really reflecting on what you're going through and what you're thinking and whatever it is. And those people start to become attracted to, or maybe they weren't ever thinking that, but you're speaking to something they felt and they never could put words to before. They're like, I've never been able to put words to what you're talking about, but I felt it for so long. And so as you start to, like, to just, I know it's so hard to take somebody's word for it, but you've just got to take our word for it that your community is there when you start showing up. And you can also seek it out. You can also, like, on through social media, follow, like, there's a little arrow when you start following somebody that drops down and says, like, recommended people, and you can start to build out who you follow to see that that's already existing. Like, there's already this community out there already. And when you start seeing that, it gives you a little more, like, confidence boost to create that community. But what it really is you deciding, like, okay, I get to start talking about this now. And you'll find that those people are magnetized to you. Like, just
Mm.
by you sharing that, you're going to speak to something, even if you don't feel it's significant, it is, because you are not the only person who felt it. So as you start speaking to that and just start bringing it up, you're going to have, it's shocking. You're going to have a flood of people just be like, wow, you are in my head.
Mm.
Oh my God. Like, I can't believe, like, you're seriously, I swear you're speaking right to me. And I remember hearing other people talk about how that had happened to them. And it wasn't until I finally just decided to just
Mm.
screw it. I'm just going to do it. And then it started happening, and having the people who are just like, you're speaking right to me. Wow. Those are words you're using words to describe something I've never been able to put words to. Thank you so much. And you're just getting thank yous. You're getting people who resonate with you. And they're like, wow, this is really stuck with me. This changed with me. And people who you don't even know, never even met, start telling you that what you're doing is inspiring them to do something that they were always afraid to do. And it's like the most, like, heart glowing, overwhelming, like, oh my God, feeling.
Mm.
And it's something you've got to just say, screw it, I'm going to show up anyway, before ever feeling it, in order to then feel it. So it's having the confidence, or really the bravery, not the confidence. Confidence comes after courage. Courage is first. You gotta, and the same goes for extreme sports. Like, the correlations are insane. The courage to jump off something where you're not sure you're gonna land, and then being willing to not make it a big deal and get up and try again to the point where you land it and you're like, it's in the bag. Like, oh, I've got this. I can do that any day of the week now. But you had to try it first in order to then have the confidence. So yeah, to build the community is really, you, if you want to tiptoe in it, go find the people that you resonate. They're like, wow, this world exists. I'm going to surround myself in it. So your subconscious will let you a little bit more, because a lot of it is the fear. We're afraid of losing community because we don't know the community we're about to gain, when the community we're about to gain is going to be head and shoulders above anything you've experienced. Like, I didn't know these people existed. I didn't know I could be supported this way. I didn't know I could be seen this way. I didn't know I could be loved this way. Like, wow, I didn't know, especially if you're a woman who hasn't had a strong sisterhood, or strong, powerful women who are also sisters. It's not a hierarchy. It's like a round table. And when you allow yourself to see that does exist, and there is always a seat at the table for you, but you get to decide to sit. It's your decision to sit at the table, not it's this. How do I say it? The seat's open. You're
Right.
the one that can sit in it, and so it's a lot of there's some worthiness work of being like, I am worthy. I'm deserving. I belong. I get to be here too. And that's the only thing in your way. And sometimes that's the work. Like oftentimes that's the only work keeping you from taking that leap. And the community is there, and the community will show up as long as you decide to do it.
So good, so good. And I because we've known each other for some time and we've watched each other go through our personal journeys, like I've watched your journey and it's just been amazing. And getting to know you on a personal level as well. So what would, and I know this is like maybe a hard question, because I know that we grow and evolve and we go through so many different transformations. What
So
would
many.
be,
You've been there for so many. Mine.
what
So
would
many.
be what would be one of the biggest transformations or revelations that you've been through that has kind of shifted a lot for you through this journey of awakening, through this journey of healing, and all the things that you've been through on your journey?
I think the number one thing that has just like been the common thread through all of it is that I do deserve to be here. Despite feeling like the newest, like greenest person in the room, feeling like I deserve to be here. I've been in so many rooms where I was the newest, greenest, freshest, like wide-eyed, oh God, terrified person in the room, and how I was never shut out. I never was, but I had always been so afraid, or the voice in my head was telling myself that I didn't deserve to be there, or I had more work to do before I could actually be in that room with those people. And no one ever told me that. I was never bullied. I was never in these communities, never ever. It's always been like, I see you, welcome. Like, we're so glad you're here. You're crushing it. You're rising. It's always been supportive. And the voice that was the loudest was my own voice saying, you shouldn't be here yet. Like, what are you doing? I don't deserve to be here. Like, I don't know anything. Why am I here? Like, why am I here? And that has always ended up being this voice that keeps you from normalizing the fact that you belong. And these are such wounds that we get when we're so little. Then everyone on the earth feels this. And for some reason we feel so alone in feeling this when everybody feels it, is the like, I deserve to be here. I belong. Like, if I'm here, I belong. And that's taken, and I'm sure there will always be another level of that, but that has really been, I think, the common thread through all of the ups and downs of figuring out everything in business and entrepreneurship and all of it. But a lot of it really is the I do belong, and I am declaring that I'm at this level because I said so, not because someone else gave me the permission or told me I am. And that has to happen, because otherwise you're constantly wondering what other people are thinking about you, and changing your behavior based off of what other people say. And to be the only person that I see doing what I do. And what's the crazy thing is, as you do it, at the same time, thanks universe, there are other women at the same time as me taking the same scary leap, but we weren't in harmony with one another yet to see one another. And as you commit to it, and as you keep going on that soul path, that mission, you see them, you come across them, and you're like, where have you been? Oh my God, I felt like I was the only one. But here's another girl who loves the outdoors and maybe isn't like an extreme sports athlete, but they're the outdoorsy mountain girl who's also tapping into spiritual business coaching. And it's like, that's girl, Soul Tribe, where have you been? Oh my God. I felt like I was the only person for years. And as you keep going, they have the same sentiment. They have the same like, oh my God, it's happening. But until then, it's just deciding like, okay, I get to do this. And what you'll find is, as you rise, other people rise and have the confidence to rise. And you'll find that the people you were afraid of, what are they going to think, are the very people who are going to come on board with you and want to learn from you, because they're like, God, I've watched you from the beginning. Holy crap. Like, you have transformed in front of my eyes, but you haven't. Like, you're you, but but something's different and I want that. And they were watching the whole time. And so you're inspiring people who never say anything until
Mm-hmm.
they do. And then you're just so grateful that you stuck with it.
So good. So what are you doing now? How are you helping your clients now? Tell us a little bit about what you do for your business and what's next for you.
Yeah. So blending a lot of things.
I know.
All the blends because it's all the things. And I'm
Right.
a reflector, and it took me literally until learning that I'm a reflector in human design to own that aspect of myself.
Mm,
Because I always felt like I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none. I'm not good at any particular thing. So much business coaching is focused on niching down, and it
mm-hmm.
never felt good for me. I was like, I just feel like I'm fitting into another box. I did this to break out of the boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And so since owning that and since finding the spiritual business community, it's like, no, fully you, fully express, like screw the rules, make up your own. And that's what extreme sports is. That's why people who do extreme sports don't do organized sports, because they don't like the rules. So it all correlates. So I have a podcast. I also teach people how to start their own podcasts and help them get to the launch period. And oftentimes it's something that they've wanted to do for a while, and they needed really the accountability in the community and the kind of kick in the pants to ask the question in order to just do it. Like the knowledge for almost anything in the world is out there. It isn't so much about the knowledge, it's about the commitment energy. And what's so great about when you do invest in yourself, it's like you're committing to yourself. When the information's been there and you've kind of let yourself not take action, because I know I should be able to do it by myself, but why not do it with a community that's kicking ass and just going for it? And you'll recognize the places that you have room to expand into everything, when you're trying to do it by yourself, you may not let yourself, I guess, bloom in that way. So one aspect is podcasting, and I also have a lot of different programs, kind of different themes. The current one is my all-in mastermind, so it's definitely in that energy of all in. And this mastermind is fun because we know each other really well through quantum flow and quantum healing. So I get to bring in the healing aspects and raising our frequency and expanding our energetic containers, as well as going all in on business, as well as going all in on like health and seeing how nothing's separated. And that's a really nuanced thing to have a program on, but a mastermind is long enough and intimate enough to allow people to really dive into, well, this has been going on in my life, or I've been noticing this habit with food, or I've been noticing this habit with blank. And then we get to ask the question like, interesting, how is this showing up in your relationship? Interesting, how is this showing up in your business? And actually have the freedom to dive into that. Whereas some of my other programs are more pointed to a specific energy and to accomplish those tasks, but a mastermind is a little more free flowing, and anything that gets to come up in that kind of container, vortex, portal, whatever you want to call it, is allowed, and we get to do the quantum healing and the quantum flow to work things through. And that is where it kind of comes in with fear into flow state. Like, what does flow state feel like on a daily basis instead of an adrenaline kick? Because the idea is that you're not based in cortisol, and that you're not based in like fear-based, I have to do, like, what can I do to make it happen? Or in extreme sports, it's all adrenaline. It's the rush. It's the whoosh. And then it goes away, and we can get so addicted to that adrenaline. But really, the flow state moments aren't the adrenaline moments. They're the, like, everything falls away and you're not even thinking. And I used to only be able to experience that in sports, which is why I kept chasing them so much. It's just like picked up another and another. And then being able to unlock this with quantum flow and with quantum healing, and be able to access that as just an optimal human state. And how do I access that on the daily without needing to be in a scary adrenaline position to access it? And that's really just like, whoo, amazing. And I have a few other programs. One's igniting follow through, which is kind of dropping into that divine masculine energy of commitment. How do I create a container that helps me feel safe and secure in my expansion into scary things? How do I be a bit more organized? How do I stay on top of things? And I also have a dirt goddess, and shift goes into a bunch. There's so many, but the one that's upcoming, so many things. One that's upcoming is called dirt goddess. Yeah, exactly. but this upcoming round, I've watched it, I've had it before, but it's called Dirt Goddess, and it's so perfect for what we're talking about, because it is the epitome of everything we're talking about. is that ownership of owning how powerful it is to be a woman right now, and how that is part of everything, and really unlearning a lot of the resentment and shame we might have for our own bodies and ourselves, and our intuition, and our cycles and our loops, like our physical body moon cycle, but as well as our emotional cycles, and how to actually give ourselves just permission to exist in that, because that's the magic. And we can force ourselves into a masculine energy, do hustle, grind, like in order to accomplish anything we do, is in order to accomplish something instead of in order to experience something. And that's what I really think the world is desperately looking for and needing. And there's so many things I could, talk about, spin-offs into different issues that are coming up in the world. But really, when you let yourself own your feminine power and not down yourself for it, not resent yourself for it, like feeling like you're in the way, or that you're weak, or that you have to prove something to anybody. That was a big part of the extreme sports world. Is like, I have to prove my worthiness of being here. And I felt it in business until I realized it wasn't there. Like in this community, it wasn't there. But I felt I carried it from extreme sports into this world. And I think a lot of women do, just because we're strong, powerful women. And we learn to do that by playing the masculine role in order to get anywhere, and then realizing that that was true in the past, but it doesn't need to be true now. And it's a lot of safety work. It's a lot of allowing yourself to still feel safe in doing less. And it's allowing yourself to still feel safe in being all of you, without like maybe muting part of yourself because it would make somebody else uncomfortable. And so it's a lot of that work. And that Dirt Goddess really goes into like, it really is the epitome of how do I get to be all of me as a woman.
Yeah. Amazing. So good. And so you've got a few social media channels that people can reach out to you, including your podcast. So what I'll do is I'll pop all of the details in the link of this video. So anyone who wants to reach out to Katie and create a podcast, or join any of her programs, or actually follow or listen to her podcast, then I'll make sure I put all of those details in at the bottom as well. But this has just been amazing. Is there anything else that you want to share with us before we finish up?
I guess I'll speak a little bit. I don't know how much they've heard about it from you already, but quantum healing, quantum flow are both something both you and I are like intimately into, and I know has changed both of our lives radically. So if there's anyone out there who's like, what is this? Because it's pretty indescribable, because it is by undefinition indescribable. It's limitless. If you resonate with either me or Nicole, and you're like, I want to know more about what you're talking about, it's a method to, both of them are methods to really rapidly move through any blocks that you have in your energetic field or in your body. That's the fastest way to describe it, and the most simplistic way to describe what it does. But I know that both of us we've just had our whole worlds changed from experiencing these methods. And in my personal experience, particularly with quantum flow, it allowed me to actually stop the monkey brain, to like actually, it's to actually zip it instead of try, oh no, I shouldn't think that way. Okay, kick that out. Nope, I shouldn't think like that. It's just clear and calm. And to realize how much our brains don't like that. It feels like the real estate has to be filled. And the more that we can practice getting back into our bodies, really comes down to feeling safe in our own bodies. And so that's where all that healing work comes in. But as we do that more, we trust our intuition so much more. And women's wisdom, our intuition is our holy crap superpower. So as we allow ourselves to love our feminine nature, as well as our bodies, as well as our intuition, everything all of a sudden clicks. And it's just like, oh, I know what to do next. Oh, no problem. I'll take care of myself this way. Oh, interesting. I know how to communicate this that way with that person. I know how to like have this emotional intelligence, but it comes from releasing a lot of the things that we've stored. And personally, I had a lot hiding in like my kidneys, for instance, which is where we store fear and anxiety. Didn't know that until I started doing this work. And I remember one day in particular, just having this massive, like a whole lifetime worth of blocks and fears and resistances cleared out, and how different I felt, and just how much more ease, and oh, there's a life, there is a version of me and life on the other side of this anxiety, on the other side of this fear, on the other side of this thing I've been holding on to and clinging to that I didn't even know I was. And there's a life on the flip side of that. And so often we don't let ourselves imagine what it would look like. Like, what would life look like if I didn't fear about this? If I didn't worry about this? If I didn't have this doubt, like, what would life look like without it? And there is another side to it. And we've got to be willing to let ourselves be curious. I'm like, well, what would I let myself get there if I've identified with this way of feeling and being for my whole life? Am I willing to imagine what life would look like without it, and to let myself go there? And I think that's probably the most potent part of inner work, is the willingness to transition, to say, thank you for serving me. I don't need you anymore, but thank you for bringing me to here. And now I get to move on without this. And I think that's probably the scariest part, is to let the thing that's been so ingrained, not just in our minds, but in our bodies, to release it. So for anyone out there who's like, what is quantum healing? What is quantum flow? Hopefully that gives you a taste of how potent it is in literally just revolutionizing how you look at the world and how you feel about yourself.
Totally, because most of the people just focus on their mindset, right? And not really actually going into the core of our physical bodies and beyond that. And so long we've been doing that mindset work and not really tapping into what's energetically around us and stored in our physical body. And there's a lot to uncover.
And you've always been, especially with like the body love group, and I've always like, I think any woman can resonate with feeling, and I know you're closing up, so I'll close it up.
Keep going. You're in flow state, baby.
Flow state. Exactly. And trusting this, I think, well, exactly what just happened. We'll like judge ourselves as like, okay, I need I need to close down. I need to accommodate. I need to, and so much of it is learning to just like trust and forgive and go with that. But so I think any woman can resonate with walking into a room and just looking at someone who just owns herself and just is like glowing, and she isn't perfect, but that doesn't seem to bother her. Like, nobody's perfect. And she doesn't seem to be picking herself apart. And I remember not being able to even do anything in the yoga class because I was constantly looking at how my stomach skin was folding over my yoga pants in that move, and looking around and being like, God, she can do that. Like, does she feel the same way about herself? Does she think the same things I think? And I was coming from the assumption that I thought everybody had those feelings, and that maybe they're just really good at covering them up. And then I started to have the aha moment that no, it's possible to not feel and question myself and compare myself at the level that I am. It's possible to not have that. And I think there was a point when I didn't believe that was the case, because I didn't think I was that bad. And then I recognized you can't know what you haven't experienced, but when you get there and you look back, it's like, oh, oh my God, this is, the real estate in my mind, the amount of energy that I used to give to comparing and picking myself apart without knowing I was doing it, just because I was just normal. And then getting to the other side of having released it. And then it's not a immediate thing. It's a over time kind of slip into a new reality. And then you're there and you look back and you're like, I would have been so triggered. Well, for instance, like with one of our mentors, I could not think of anything else other than judgment of myself when I was in the same room as one of my mentors, and over my internal work, nothing else that she did. She never dimmed herself down to accommodate my insecurity, and that was triggering. But as I started doing more of that work, I realized the next times I had been in person with her that it was getting quieter and quieter and quieter and quieter, and to the point when I was like, whoa, I'm not thinking the things I used to think. I don't feel the way I used to feel about this. And it's just kind of a slip into a new reality. It's not an instant done. And so I think because we live in such an instant gratification time of the world, that's something that we get to heal, is that change can happen instantly, but often you will notice it gradually. And it's totally just this, we want something to change and to be like, oh, it stopped like in that second, but it's going to be this gradual over time. And then you're going to have a moment of realization of like, that part of my body doesn't hurt anymore. Or I haven't picked myself apart here. Like that, I don't do that anymore. It's just gone. And you'll maybe hear somebody else voice what you used to feel. And then you'll have that aha moment of, it's gone. Oh my God, I didn't even know it. When did it disappear? I don't even know. It just gradually left my front of mind consciousness and dissipated. And I think, all women have felt that, like, how do I feel like that? But if we've judged that woman, or we've heard somebody judge that person, then we won't let ourselves be in that glowiness. We won't let ourselves get to our version of that if we have judgments that we can't, or it'll make us blank, or that somebody else will call us blank if we go for it. And so it isn't so much that it's not possible for you, it's the allowance. It's the same thread as before. Like, I deserve to be expressed in this way, and I'm safe. I think even underneath that, it's that I'm safe to be expressed this way. I'm safe to be all of me. And that's at the root, I think, of pretty much anything, including business work. It's that.
Which gives permission for other people to do it as well. Because if we didn't have those women, us, who stand out there in the light and shine, then, it just, who else is going to step up and do it as well? You've got to have those people who do it. Yes, they have the courage and the confidence to continue doing it, but it allows and gives permission for other women to also do that as well. Even if you feel uncomfortable, there are times where I wake up and I don't even want to get on social media or anything, because I feel, like, no, like, you just friggin' get up and do it.
And it's, totally. It's just that ownership of, like, it doesn't matter what you're looking like, what you're wearing. Like, I like to now empower myself with clothing that I maybe never let myself wear, but it's also knowing that energy that you feel from that, like, oh, I feel so good in this. You also get to feel that in your PJs. And you also get to feel that in like your workout sweat. And you also get to feel like that same, like, yes, this is it. I feel so good. I feel so on top of the world right now. That is accessible at any time. And it's allowing ourselves to feel that way when we think we need permission or an instance or an occasion to go to in order to feel that way. But that's still seeking, like, permission from outside of us in order to let ourselves feel a particular way about ourselves. And the empowerment, the ownership, and the scary part of it is that it's always available, and we always get to feel that way. Like, we're always worthy, we're always deserving, we always have a seat at the table. And that is going to be the bigger tug of war, is going to be your internal tug of war, more so, especially if we grew up and that was part of school and bullying and all of it, when we felt it was an external tug of war. Even then, it was still an internal one. And as we evolve and grow into this, like, deeper layers of body love and deeper layers of women's wisdom and deeper layers of entrepreneurship and being a powerful woman, but finding the balance of that polarity of, like, I get to be both, and I get to be all of me. I get to be a dirt goddess. I get to be an entrepreneur, a feminine, sensual, like, entrepreneur, and an extreme sports athlete in a male dominated world. And the permission is just like, this is who I am, this is who I get to be, without looking for somebody to give you the permission slip to do it.
Absolutely. Amazing. Love it, goddess. So good.
Goddess.
Amazing. Oh, thank you so much for this amazing chat, Katie. So many people are going to get so many valuable tips from this, just from everything that you've explored around your own personal journey as well. And I love that you went super deep into the world of your extreme sports, because I think that's just incredible. There's not many women out there doing that, but hopefully this inspires others to get out there and also, take the lead and get into it, especially if they are fully passionate towards that. So
it's so like when you let yourself do it, and I'm a new learner, so I'm constantly jumping into new sports. Like I am a complete at surfing, I can complete kook at scuba diving, climbing I'm not so great at, kayaking. Like I'm not just staying in my realm of excellence zone of genius. I'm constantly like putting myself in this like frustrating like tear state moments where you get to try something new. And I know that helps me serve my clients because I'm constantly being a beginner. But when you let yourself do that and you get that click moment in extreme sports, you feel it in your body, you can remember that cellularly and bring that into your business also, and bring that into anything else. You're like, I overcame this really terrifying thing in my body, and it clicked, and I felt the amount of like, I did it. It's like a little kid, inner child, full on. I did it. And that's so important to let ourselves have and extreme sports have let me do that. And I'm antsy for the world to open back up so I can, I was in the creation, we were booking out spaces for retreats, and then everything hit. So I'm excited for that to open back up. So keep an eye out. If you like what I'm talking about and you want to know more about this, we're going to have a combo of like healing plus extreme sports fun, but at everybody's level. I'm not going to like take you down anything you're on.
All right, go jump off that cliff now.
Don't about that. No, it'll be, I've been a instructor and coach in extreme sports for 8 years. So I teach everything from like 4-year-olds up to adults. So like, I'm very conscious of what people are ready for. The goal is eventually to have retreats that combo all of it. So you can feel this feeling in your body, like undeniably to a cellular level, you feel it instead of just thinking about it. So we can get back into our bodies around this and recognize that it's all connected.
Love that. Awesome. So cool. I can't wait till you announce all of that, the retreat as well. That's amazing.
I'm so excited.
Oh, well, thank you so much, beautiful. Of course. And thank you so much to everyone that's tuned in. Make sure you please like, comment, share to anyone who you think will benefit from listening to this chat. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. And always remember, you truly can live the life of your dreams. Thank you so much, Katie. Sending you so much love.